Who were you before you lost your wild self?
That's what we're helping you explore on the Tend Her Wild podcast.
Through questions and tools around how best to listen to your inner voice,
rewild ourselves, and live the most authentic life where we thrive instead of survive.
I'm Betsy.
And I'm Kate.
And we're so glad you've joined us for this episode.
Hello, Tend Her Wild podcast listeners. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the F word.
Feminism.
We said that very softly. We are not feeling very soft maybe right now, but we do want to talk about the F word that feels like
it's become
the F word in a lot of ways. And there's so much in the ether right now, the news, things that we've experienced, that it really feels like there's a bubbling up of women's voices, women's power, also some divisiveness.
Big backlash that's happening against this energy of the feminine rising. And we want to have a conversation about the word feminism and what it actually means, what its history is, where it's at now, and maybe what the future of feminism is all about. So the idea for this came, you and I, a couple of weeks ago, were having a conversation, and you went off. I don't know if you remember this, but you went off, and I was like, quickly typing, because I'm like, she is in a place right now and I need to make sure I gather all of her ideas. But it was right after a particular article had just been released in the New York Times. What was that about, Kate?
Well, you might have heard there was a New York Times article that asked, the headline was, "Are Women Ruining the Workplace?" And I caught it on social media and I'm like, is that made up? That has to be made up. Nobody would really put that out there in 2025. Sure enough, it was. And there was a lot of backlash to the title of the article. It got changed 2 more times after that. The second iteration was, "Did liberal feminism ruin the workplace?" So then we renamed it. They tried to, I guess, create a different way to look at it. And then the third version was, "Have feminine vices," love that, "taken over the workplace?" And it really kind of struck a nerve. You were right. It really did for me. And
I'm not going to repeat everything she said, but I got it all down in writing because but I appreciate that about you, Kate. And we've had this conversation many times, that there has been, in fact, we just re-released last week our episode on anger, and you learned how to really find that anger and move that anger through your system to sort of improve lives of people around you in your own life in your 20s in college, whereas it took me until my 40s to find my anger. So I always appreciate it when you go off in anger because it kind of teaches me how to do it in my own life. So,
well, and I appreciate you holding space for my anger as my friend, because sometimes I think as women, we need to hold that space for each other.
We do
too.
And you and I were just on this amazing retreat in Greece, and there were women between the ages of 28 and 75, I believe. Yeah. And there were a couple on our last day, we were sort of, talking about what we had received or what had kind of come through for us. And several women in their 60s who are phenomenal Ivy League graduates were like, I'm pissed off. They were talking about the anger that they had started to see come through during this retreat as they were getting in touch with themselves and saying, we have lived through so much in our life and what's going on in our world, that we're going backwards. And we could never have imagined that this was going to happen. What is this all about? I feel all this anger. And so many women in that room were like, yes, yes, yes. What is happening right now?
And it led to an interesting conversation, I think, between the different generations too. There was this kind of multi-generational room where women, in their 60s and 70s who had lived through this during their lifetime wanted the younger generation to understand.
Yes.
How much things have been rolled back, and how that stirred up in them so much anger, knowing that their daughters have fewer rights, that women's equality is suddenly in question everywhere. And you and I talked about, is it really the kind of a collective pushback from, as structures and things are starting to fall and laws are being overturned almost on a daily basis, that's kind of causing this upheaval, that it's almost like there's a fear that the feminine is rising. And so there's a major pushback.
And not just from men, but from women as well, which is where we want to get into this idea of feminism. What is it? And so we felt like it was really important to actually go back to the definition of feminism and really start to break this idea apart and make sense of it. So the definition of feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. So that definition already shows us that the sexes aren't equal, or we wouldn't have a need to advocate for women. But feminism is anything that advocates for this greater equality between the sexes.
Yes. At its very core.
At its very core.
Should we want equality?
Yeah.
And it's striking that in 2025, there's still so much of a belief that it's not necessary, or that it's not good for us or good for our culture. And so that, I think, is really the dilemma right now of where we sit in this feminism. And, thinking about the time period that it really began in the late 19th century into the early 20th century, the first wave of feminism was all about legal and political rights. So the suffrage movement, property ownership, women couldn't own property. And that was the essence, just the right to vote. And we have seen a potential of, and certainly politicians saying, maybe women don't need to vote. Maybe that's not really, maybe a household should vote. The man should vote. That's really, those conversations are happening out in the ether. And that, to me, when you think about how far we've come, the idea that we would roll that back is
kind of astounding.
It's astounding.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look at it and think, well, it's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. But I've thought that about a few other things that have actually come to fruition.
That have actually happened.
So I think we have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And then the second
wave was in the 1960s and 70s. So this would have been, the time of our mothers, and women who were in feminist movements there were arguing for reproductive rights,
right,
and also equal pay.
Yes.
And, even the capacity to get into an Ivy League school.
Right?
Yeah. People were fighting for that in the 1960s and 70s.
Yes.
So I heard this great quote from a woman that said, if your daughter plays soccer, if you got a credit card in your own name, if you were able to purchase a home in your own name, you need to thank the feminist.
Yes.
Because that's why
right.
You get to do those things today.
Men didn't just suddenly decide that would be a good idea.
Right.
Women had to work for that.
Women had to fight for
advocate, fight for that, take to the streets. I mean, that's how change happened and continues to potentially happen. So, yeah. And then we moved into the third wave of feminism, where really we look at issues of identity.
This would have been like 1990 to 2006. This would have been our college years.
Yeah. Intersectionality and diverse experience of womanhood. And so this kind of started to bring others into the feminist movement, I think, looking at, how other marginalized communities are impacted by our systems that are so patriarchal. And so, yeah, that was during our college years. And I tried to think back to my experience. Do you have any memories kind of that time period?
I think what I remember most about my college years was, and that would have been the mid-90s, that there was starting to be more advocacy for LGBTQ, although we didn't call it that in the mid-90s. But I remember there were chapters in my college campus for particular, there was a lesbian chapter, I remember. And so it was just starting to have a little bit more visibility, and people were coming together in terms of support. What do you remember about intersectionality for your college years?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I think that,
let's get real. The Indigo Girls, right? That was our time, right? And that that really shed some light on, like, there was a visual of women.
Yeah, Lilith Fair.
Yes.
If you have not seen that movie, have you seen it?
No.
Yeah, the documentary on Lilith Fair is a must-watch.
Okay, right.
It really does talk about kind of how feminism and how hard it was for them to organize that all-women singer event, because sponsors said, we don't think people will just come to hear women.
Well, didn't we show that?
Yes, we did. I went in Chicago, and I'll never forget it. So, yes, I think women started to gather, and I think that was a time period where women started to create things together.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
When I watched that documentary, it really kind of brought back, like,
women can be on the same team, and we can do something really powerful together.
Support each other. And even through Lilith Fair, they started to bring in Black singers, women that were maybe in a different genre of music, that they tried to be as inclusive as they could.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
But actually, I guess really you said women started to come together. I guess really that is a thread through all of these feminist movements, because even the suffragettes, they had to come together, right? In the 60s and 70s, they had to come together and march. And so that's a core thing, is women coming together.
Yeah. Our power lies in our collective.
Coming together. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sam, founder of The Local Hub. When I moved to Iowa City, I felt like a tourist, and I'm sure you can relate if you've ever moved somewhere new or just haven't explored your city in years. Supporting local has never been more important, and the Local Hub makes it simple. It's a community-first way to uncover the local businesses, events, and hidden spots that make an area feel like home. If you're in the Iowa City area, you'll find us online, in print, and on social media, all designed to keep you in the loop about what's happening here. Visit thelocalhub-ic.com and start living like a local.
All right, so there's one last wave. This is the fourth wave of feminism.
We're
2010.
apparently in.
Yeah, I think we're in it. This is when we started to use digital tools such as social media to be activist. And in particular, what this fourth wave has focused on is social harassment, assault. Clearly, the Me Too movement has been a part of this. And also trying to spread more ideas of body positivity for women.
It's very, I would say, body, like there is a body
autonomy thing.
Autonomy.
Yeah. These are our bodies.
Yes.
And the irony that now reproductive rights have changed.
And you're sitting here during the week of the Epstein files being released, where over 1,000 women were impacted. So girls, I should say, were impacted. So, yeah, I think it's helpful to kind of look at those points in our history and kind of what shifted, and to have that reference when you think about where we're at right now. Yeah. And when I read that headline, and I think about how hard myself and my colleagues and you, all friends, have worked to bring our full selves to the workplace, to show up for and to lead others in a way that feels authentic, bringing more compassion, having empathy, all those feminine great qualities. To have this debate about enough of that. We got to get back to the top down control, the profit over people. All of that is we got to get back to that.
Yeah.
Just makes my stomach turn.
Yeah. Although, do you remember we had this little aha a little bit earlier as we were talking about this, that we can maybe look at it from two angles. One can be like, oh my gosh, look how far we're falling, versus, oh, maybe this is the final fight. This is the final pushback, right? That like, it's the final gasp for air of the patriarchy or pushing against women. And so the fact that people are trying to dismantle all the work that's been done by feminism in the last 100 years, maybe this pushback or what looks like the real stripping of women's rights is the final gasp for air. That's my hope.
Well, me
Clearly,
too.
we don't know. Time is going to tell.
Yeah.
But that is a possibility.
It is a possibility. And I guess I think we as women collectively have to also come together at this time and decide, no, I'd like to have a credit card in my name.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to be the CEO of a company, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to continue to vote. Yeah. All those things feel like things are worth fighting for.
Yeah.
And because as much as I want to believe that our society will just kind of overcome this on its own, history tells us that it's when women come together and say, no, this isn't.
And so what we're seeing right now is they're pitting conservative feminist against liberal feminist. And our question was, well, isn't feminism like we're all fighting for equality? So this sort of pitting women against women does seem a bit of a game of patriarchy to stir all of us up and infighting so that we're not paying attention to the bigger systemic issues that are happening.
Right. And we've done episodes before where we've talked about, trusting one another's women, allowing women to have choice in how
autonomy, sovereignty.
Yes. And all of those things that's feminism. It's equality, being able to choose whatever's right for you. Men have that option. Yeah. we should want that for our sisters and for
our children
and our daughters and and all of our children. Yeah.
But there is something about the word feminism that does seem to be very polarizing. So we looked up some recent data on what % of people actually consider themselves a feminist. And that data was a bit surprising to us.
It was. 68% consider themselves a feminist. But it really does depend on the definition.
Yeah.
In how people answer that question.
So my curiosity is the 32% who don't consider themselves a feminist, then why is that? That if you're born as a woman, you just automatically don't want equal rights? You don't want to make the same amount doing the same work as your male counterpart? Like, how do we understand that?
Right.
How do we make sense of that? You and I have had a conversation about, well, how does patriarchy perhaps benefit us?
Yeah, we have talked about how women who are benefiting from the patriarchy, and let's be honest, white women definitely benefit at a greater level for sure, that there's a fear of like loss of control. If the patriarchy goes away, we're not sure what that's going to look like.
Yeah. And financial loss,
security,
loss of state safety, security.
Yeah. And so I think that maybe some of the pushback is just, the fear of the unknown. Like,
this is how it's always been.
Yeah. And I feel
status
safe.
Quo.
Yeah. And thinking about just the way the world is and how maybe our culture is being impacted too by cultures around the world, that there's almost a cyclical nature to this too, it's happening globally where they're starting to question women. And it feels like such an important point in time right now.
Yeah, it really does.
When I think about, the future of our world, how important it is that women be at tables, that women be their ideas.
Their voices.
Yes.
In some ways, it's kind of an exciting time to be alive. Like there's a part of me that's like, I can't believe we're facing such big issues. And then there's another part of me that's like, but wow, you get to be here and have a front row seat for this. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
How do I want to contribute?
Yeah, I go back and forth too.
Yeah.
On my good days. You've seen that in me. We also want to point out that feminism is not anti-men.
No.
This is us speaking for ourselves, but I think also when you look historically, you can see that it wasn't about anti-men.
No, it's about finding equality. I love men. Yeah. I love my sons.
Yeah.
I love my father. Right? I love many men in this world.
And men can also be feminists.
And men can also be feminists.
Yes, they can want equality for their daughters.
And
their sisters and their mothers. So I think sometimes we pit the genders against each other when really, if we zoom out, it's this idea of equality of human beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that there isn't one superior human being.
Yeah. And we've talked so much about the feminine energy and the masculine energy on this podcast, and that they are not the same. We are not the same. We're not born the same. We have different wiring. We have different, capacities. When men are stronger physically than women, like there's all kinds of differences between gender. So we do have different energies, but they're equal and yet opposite. So one ideally isn't superior to the other. They're in balance. We need them both.
Yes.
And I think the same is absolutely true about men and women.
I totally agree. And you mentioned the pay thing, which I just want to bring up for a moment, because I think these last few years, ironically, the WNBA really brought this to the forefront.
Yes, they did.
And we feel connected to that in Iowa City. And so I looked this up too. In the WNBA, women make 6 cents to every dollar that a male NBA player makes.
Yeah. And I was saying to you, when people say, hey, I'm going to go watch the basketball game, what do they mean?
The men's game.
The men's game. If they're going to go to the women's basketball game, they say, I'm going to the women's basketball game. So isn't that interesting that it's not men's basketball versus women? It's just basketball versus women's basketball.
Right. Yeah. And then in most other industries, on average, women make 75, still today, make 75 cents to the dollar.
It's kind of mind blowing.
It is, because I feel like, I think in law school 20 some years ago, that was still true. I'm like, are we not making progress here?
Yeah. Have we been treading water in the last 25 years?
And there's a little part of me that believes that part of this collective movement forward and being able to is also about us individually using our voice and asking for what we deserve and stepping into our own power individually, which then makes the collective stronger.
Yeah.
And so,
which is why women have to be on women's sides, because I can speak for myself. I will find myself at times self-sabotaging for fear of like, if I step up in this way, then I might piss this woman off, or I might lose some friends. And so there's something we do as women of like holding ourselves back because we don't want other women to speak poorly of us or to, be jealous of us. And so we hold ourselves back. And so if we can create some kind of movement of women supporting women, I think it can go a long way to finding the confidence to then be able to speak up for what you believe you should be paid at work, or when we know
totally
we've got each other's backs. How would our world be different?
Well, we might have a woman president, I would say. And also
been waiting for that one for a while. My lifetime, I hope.
And that came up in the last few weeks with Michelle Obama saying, don't tell me to run. We aren't ready for a woman. And as much as that made me sad, I also thought, she's speaking the truth.
Yeah.
And I think our society has to grapple with, well, why aren't we?
Why is that?
Why?
So many brilliant, smart, competent, compassionate, intelligent women. Why can't we elect them in the United States?
Right.
There are many countries around the world that
28 countries.
28 other countries have female presidents.
Yeah. So I guess the essence is when we're divided, we tend to lose our collective power. And I believe the existing structures are counting on that.
Yep. Helps them, doesn't it?
It does. And I think having these conversations and being honest about that is part of our work right now.
Yeah.
And not allowing, I guess, I was struck we started this with the New York Times article. It was a man that was moderating the debate about this, of course. You can look him up. But thinking about how sometimes we allow men to define us and to define feminism and to define what we are skilled and not skilled at doing. And not all men, because there are a lot of men, I think, that are behind, their daughters and their sisters and wives and mothers. And so I do want to honor them and say, we need you to be louder, because it's going to take more. It's going to take the women, but it's also going to take the men.
I just saw a clip of Robert Downey Jr. saying, we need to turn this into a matriarchy, don't you think?
Yeah. That word's get out there a lot right now.
Yeah.
And the irony about that is that a matriarchy is not women in power.
It's not actually equality. We're just we're actually flipping it too.
Well, I have actually heard that when you really look at matriarchy, and maybe this is wrong, that the idea of a matriarchy is that there is equality.
Yeah.
And so instead of believing that, well, if we just turn it all over to women, we can't let women run everything. It's not really the opposite of patriarchy. It's actually equality.
Yeah. Because if women is running, because women tend to be more collectivist and more focused on relationship, there isn't the same hierarchies of power that we see in patriarchy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Well, when you and I get stuck on really complicated issues, we sort of swim and we're like, ooh, this is a big question. I don't even know where to go with this. We open up our Wild Woman Archetype Bible, which is Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And she has some pretty phenomenal things to say about the F word feminism and how we sort of deal with where we're finding ourselves right now in the year 2025, even though this book was written in the 1990s, 35, 40 years ago.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in this book about this topic. So when you think about the Wild Woman and kind of this connection to feminism, the inner authority feminism really keeps pointing us back. So it's about remembering your deep instinctual knowing, which is the feminine, right? Instinctually, we want to have our authority over our bodies, our voices, our choices, and our lives. And so the Wild Woman would say, instinctually, I know that that's true.
Yeah.
And so
I trust my own instinct versus what I'm being told by people outside of me.
Right.
Yes.
So that was the first one. The second one says, the Wild Woman restores traits that patriarchy labeled as too much.
How many of you women out there have been called too much? God, you're so much.
Yeah.
So many feelings.
So the Wild Woman connects back to her natural instincts.
Says, yes, I am a lot.
Yeah.
That's how I'm designed.
And
Thank you very much.
I'm not going to suppress myself anymore.
Right.
And so feminism calls out the systems that do the suppressing.
Yeah.
So another thing to think about. The Wild Woman's also a reminder that empowerment is ancient, not trendy. So sometimes we talk about feminism as this modern movement, and the Wild Woman would say, no, when you look at the roots of our world, there's a timeless force in women that's always been there and always been resisted or boxed in. because there's so much power.
Yeah. The feminine, as we've talked about many times, is power.
Yeah.
Yeah. We create.
So I love this line. She says, your power didn't start with the 20th century. It started in your bones.
Mm. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. The next one is that she calls women into wholeness, not perfection.
Yep.
Feminism often challenges the good girl, the self-sacrificing women, these ideas that we're supposed to, be selfless. And the wild woman says, no, it's okay to take up space and to feel everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
and to express it. Isn't this one of them too, that the wild woman is not afraid to snarl and roar and fight back when she's cornered?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she frames liberation as an inner and an outer journey. So when you think about feminism, it's kind of about tackling these structures, right?
Yes. Which are external to us.
Yeah. External.
And yes.
And the wild woman tackles the psyche, the soul, the inner war. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you put that together, you get a woman who's not just free on paper, but free on the inside.
Beautiful.
Woo! So she always
Estes
has so much wisdom about everything related to midlife and women. And so, I think this is an important conversation. I'll be honest, it's always, you never know how some people feel about it, but I think just having a conversation right now is important, and continuing to talk to one another and share and be open about these issues. It's important. We can't stay separated right now. We need to be.
I think that's the bottom line. And that really sums up sort of this hope that women can come together instead of somehow get pulled into this idea that we're against one another. We should be against one another, or,
right.
I think that's where we can make some real gains for womankind, which then impacts mankind in a really positive way.
That's right.
Because we're all interconnected.
Always interconnected. So
thanks, Kate.
Thank you, Betsy.
Thanks for helping sort through a really challenging topic.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Come back and rewild with us again next week.